On this week's episode of Hairdo Uncut, I interview the owner of West Coast Hair Design in Jacksonville, Florida, Linda Deason. I love the fresh perspective she brings for hair care and advice for clients and professional hairstylists. I think you'll enjoy this interview too. Is exciting for me because this is my first interview with someone I have actually never met in person before. Please welcome Linda Deason, owner of West Coast Hair Design in Jacksonville, Florida. She's joining the show to me. Thank you for joining, and I'm honored you're here.
Thanks so much for inviting me. And not only not knowing you, this is my first time to ever do a podcast. So how exciting.
I think it's fun. And don't worry, I'm only 5 episodes. This is only the 6th episode of the podcast. So I'm just about as rookie as you are. So no worries. So, and I know that a lot of the question is going to be from anybody who's listening to this is, if you guys didn't know each other, how did you guys connect? And so it boils down to we at Hairdo Salon are a Bumble and Bumble salon, and that's kind of how I came across West Coast Hair Design on Instagram at West Coast Hair Design, for those of you who want to go follow the Instagram. But I was just not only because they were a Bumble salon, but because I really liked what you guys are doing on there, Linda. I think you guys do a really good job of not only keeping it fun, but your work is exceptional, and I think that's awesome. And I've been following it for probably 6 or 7 months personally. So you guys are doing a wonderful job there.
Thank you so much. Instagram certainly can be a challenge at sometimes, but it really is fun, and I love the new friends that I've made.
Yeah, and I love that Bumble is now making it a little bit easier to come up with product content too. So that's very helpful, and you guys do a really good job at that. So let's dive in. Let's have Linda just kind of introduce herself. Linda, how long have you been doing hair?
I've been doing hair for 40 plus years.
All right.
Like a lifetime, it seems.
That's good for a 21-year-old. No, I'm just...
It really is. I know. I mean, twice as long as most people are old in the salon. So,
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really is. I will tell you that I love it more today than ever.
Really? Why is that?
It just seems to keep getting more exciting. I think that everything online, Instagram, I'm really loving all the online classes you can take. I just feel like there's so much education everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And, it's actually nice to hear you say that, because I think a lot of stylists get frustrated with how it is now because it's challenging. And you and I, when we had a call about a week ago, just kind of really just meeting so that we can meet for the first time before jumping on the show. But we were saying how people get frustrated really quickly now and almost burnt out or, just frustrated with all the things that they have to keep track of. And it's not, hey, I just have to be good at hair and everybody can refer. There's a lot of other steps that need to be taken. So it's good for you. Good that you hear that. Good to hear.
Yeah. Well, it also gives you another aspect to challenge, yourself with. I mean, I think you have to keep changing. And if you just kept doing hair and doing the same thing, then a lot of the thrill would be gone.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. And I hope that people want to push themselves once they get into the industry and push themselves like that and have that kind of an attitude. I think that's awesome, Linda. So what made you go into hair? What inspired you?
Well, I actually was really a long time ago, and somebody at a church that I went to asked me to work in their hair salon at the front desk. And at the time, it was long enough ago that it was one of the first haircut blow-dry salons.
Oh, okay.
Not roller sets. And so I went to work in there as their receptionist, and I worked right up the front next to a girl named Millie, who still has a salon in San Diego. It's Millicent and Company.
Really?
And she was so talented and so inspiring. that I just knew within weeks that I wanted to do hair and I wanted to be in that environment.
Oh, that's awesome. Wait, how old were
Mhm.
you at the time?
Probably 19.
Oh, okay. So you were still
Hmm.
you were
Hmm.
just starting
Hmm.
adulthood.
Yes, yeah, young.
Oh, that's awesome.
I
So
know.
that was this person was your inspiration. What continues to be your inspiration? You know, you got that first job. Now what continues that drive like you alluded to earlier where you find it exciting now that you're more excited about doing hair now than you have been before? Like what is that drive for you?
Well, I would say part of it is the salon environment and the culture that I have created right now, the salon that I'm in.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I love the group that I work with. And in my salon, we have a really diverse group in that we have from very young up to myself. So it's really inspiring to see somebody who's 22, 23, achieving more success than I ever dreamed possible, and to be able to be a part of that. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, they can rise very quickly now. And it used to be that I'd have to save my money for years to travel someplace to go take a class or do something. And now I can take an online class. I can watch on Instagram. I mean, you have so many options to increase your skills,
Yes.
and it's ever changing. I love that it's ever changing and always something new to conquer.
Yeah. No, and I think that's amazing. What specialties? I mean, on your Instagram, you guys talk a lot about you promote that master colorist and balayage. Is that where your specialties lie, or and what other types of hair or hairstyles do you like to be doing?
Well, really, what we are master colorists. Everybody in the salon is a colorist that works at West Coast Hair Design. Balayage is something over the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 years that
Yep.
we really have focused on. And although it looks like it's all balayage on Instagram, I think what it really is achieving a balayage look on a variety of different situations. Many
Yes.
people come in with like dark hair like me, or they bring you in that picture, and you are really doing a variety of techniques to get them to that look.
Yes.
So, being trained as a colorist, you know, we might have to do teasy lights or foliage or lots of glossing. So that's how you're getting that look. It's not all balayage, but
Yeah.
it's all color.
Okay. Now, obviously you cut is coloring kind of like the first step for you and for most of your other stylists, and then cuts, or um, you
We
just
we
kind of
all
focus on color
we
more.
No, we all cut and we all color, but I would say color is our first love. But
Okay.
I mean, we just had a bumble cutting class
I
last
saw that
Tuesday. Yeah, so we just had a so we really do cut, but I would say that color is our first love, all of ours, everybody in there.
for
Hmm.
sure. And how many? Actually, and I forgot to count. I know you got a handful. How many stylists are there at the salon?
We have actually we're going to have 10 soon because I just hired a new stylist that will be in part time. So we actually are double working the stations now because we have such an overflow of clients.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So
How
there'll be 10 stylists. Hmm.
how many do you have that work full time? Or and this is just for I
Hmm.
didn't even have this question planned, but how many are full time versus part time?
I would say that six would be full time and four would be part time.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Hairdo. We maybe have one that's full time. Everybody's part time.
Yeah.
we have like 16 stylists, but they equate to
Wow.
like we equate to like maybe eight full time.
Right.
so
Right.
um So, how do you conduct education? You talked about having Bumble and Bumble come out, which we love. I love having Bumble and Bumble come out to the salon. I think they have great education. But what else do you do? I know you've talked about online, but how do you personally do that? And how do you have like do you have a certain number that you want your stylist to attend, either online or in person? And how much hands on do you like to have them do versus just viewing what people do? Talk a little bit about the education that you have in the salon.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that hands on is really important. Um, So we do obviously have a lot of Bumble classes in the salon. We go up to New York frequently. I actually have two network educators for Bumble in the
Oh,
salon, which
wow.
is amazing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
it really is unusual as well. I'm very fortunate with that.
Yes.
We had the business of balayage come to us so that everybody got certified in balayage. We're actually the only salon in Jacksonville that ever had them come to them.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I have gone out to Ryan Whedon, Master of Balayage in San Diego. So I've gone out and taken his class. Several of us are going to go to Tampa and take a class from him.
Oh, nice.
We've taken some Candy Shaw classes, lots of Redken classes, color classes. So all of those would be hands-on. Then online, I'm neurotic about it. I have the Masters of Balayage monthly thing where you can watch whenever you want. I have so many from behindthechair.com, all
Sure.
color. I'm going to say they're all color. A lot of the Pretty Little Ombre, they have the Salt Society. I've gotten some of her classes.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really what we do. We kind of just talk about where we want to go, what we want to see. I find like I just brought something up to them and I saw an opportunity, and I'll send out a group text. Who's interested in this? Do you want to do that? They
Yeah.
all really want to learn.
Yeah, and that's good.
Hmm.
That's good. It's we kind of you know education is so important. We in a past episode, we've talked about how important it is for stylists to have education, and as a salon, being able to provide that because a lot of I'm finding at least a lot of independent stylists either are what I are going to watch somebody do hair, but they're not getting their hands in there, or they're not investing in their education at all. And so it's good that you do that, and it's good to be part of a salon that does that for their stylists as well. So with those classes, do you end up hosting some for yourself, or do you kind of leave it up to them like, hey, here's the class, why don't you go out to it? Stuff like that, or do you kind of do some hands-on classes with them like in the salon after you see a video or go off somewhere?
I do it both ways. We
Oh,
we go to the classes. We have people come to us, and then we do classes within the salon as well, sharing with each other.
awesome.
Hmm. And of course,
Awesome.
as you know, having network educators, they go up to New York, learn the classes, and then they're available to teach whatever they've learned. So we're
Yeah.
very lucky to have the Bumble education.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome that you guys do that and have the kind of culture, because I would have to say that that's pretty rare to have a culture where you guys are teaching each other.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome. So I want to segue into a few different questions, especially directed more towards clients, because again, this podcast is really about bridging the gap between hairstylist and client. Because I feel like, and you and I had chatted about this on our call prior to this, that I feel like while some people are doing a really good job, I think for the most part, clients and stylists are missing. They're missing something in their discussion. So, what are three things clients should look for in a stylist or in a salon that they're going into?
I would say probably the first thing they could look for is the online reviews. They're lucky to live in an era where you can actually read what people think, because ultimately it's about having your client satisfied and happy. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I would say checking the online reviews. I would say finding a salon that has ongoing training. They don't think they know it all. They want to stay current. They want to keep going, and you can see that from their Instagram, from
Yes.
their web page. If they're not constantly learning, then they're going to be stagnant with you.
Yep.
Um, and I would say that probably a third thing, and we touched on this with Bumble, is what products and services do they offer?
Yes.
If they don't offer the things you're interested in, then they wouldn't be a good fit for you. But also, I think the product that you sell and the products that you use are a direct reflection of who you are. Their core
Totally.
values line up with your core values. My mother always told me the company you keep is how people are going to see you.
Yes.
So I think those things are really important for a client. I also encourage them, you should stop in when I have a client moving to another area and I'm trying to find them a salon. I say, don't make your appointment over the phone. You should walk into that a salon, see how they greet you, see if they like each other within the salon, see if it's clean, and get a feel for it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. You'll instantly be able to tell if it's the type of place you want to be. I am
Right.
100% on board with that. Great advice. So people take that into account. What do you think is the biggest barrier for stylists and clients as to hurdle early on in a professional relationship?
I think that probably would be a very kind of old and used term, but communication. I think that people have trouble communicating, not just a stylist and their client.
Sure. Yeah.
So I actually think that it works two ways. A lot of that falls on the stylist. They have to learn how to do a consultation and actually book out time for them. You'd be surprised when people come in and they see that we're actually giving them a consultation before the service, how shocked they are.
So important.
Um,
So
so
important.
important. Yeah. So I think and that's something you have to learn how to do. I mean, I get people that come in and they don't know how to do a proper consultation. They don't know the questions to ask because you have to lead the client sometimes to find out what they want. Like you might need to find out what they don't want
Yes.
to get there. I also think that you have to learn how to read their lifestyle and their look. Somebody might be showing you a
Absolutely.
picture, but it doesn't. You have to learn that. That is what comes then with trust. I mean, I don't
Yes.
know about in your salon, but I know for me, I have clients that I've done for 20 plus years. And I know that they might say to me, I really want my bangs short. But I know they really don't want what I consider short bangs. So, with me, what I would say to them, I would get my comb, I would hold it right where I think they want it. And I would be like, is this what you consider short? And they go to somebody else when I'm not there and they say, I want short bangs, and they get bangs above their eyebrows and they're not happy.
Ooh.
So, it's I think it's the communication, the consultation, and also clients have to have a more realistic expectation of what they can get.
For sure. For sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so and we'll kind of dive into that aspect a little bit more. Something that you said I thought was really key and almost like just to add on to that consultation not only sets them up, but I think it stands out way different when you are somebody who sits down and does that. Like when you're a stylist and you sit down with that person and you have a consultation beforehand, instead of just being like standing behind them saying, "Okay, what do you want? This is what you want. Okay, let's get going." Like it stands out, and that's what we tell our stylists here. It stands out to the client when you sit down. You're like, you talk to them, you spend a little bit of extra time with. They will notice that whether they come back, whether they are more likely to come back because that will be so much different. They may go to another salon and they'll be like, "Hey, this person was not talking to me the way they were over at, Hairdo or West Coast Hair Design." Like they will notice that right away, and I think that's totally key and awesome.
It's also, I think, just think how you would want to be treated. What if you walked into a doctor's office with a problem and they didn't ask you what was wrong and they just started, you want them to sit down and look at you and face you and have that conversation.
Yes. Yeah. So what are a couple things that you wish clients knew about going into an appointment for the first time with a stylist?
Um, I would say that how important it is for them to show up on time. That they're
Yes.
you have booked a certain amount of time for them, and when they're late, you're then not able to give them your full attention. So again, I think as a stylist, it's our job to educate them on that, and that if we want them to be on time, we need to be on time. You have to extend that
Absolutely. Yep.
same courtesy. How important it is to tell the truth because we do mostly color. You need to know their hair history. You need to know their color history. And we'll sit down in a consultation and ask them, have you had color on? What is it? What have you done? And they might tell you, no, I haven't. And you begin the process, and it
You put that
immediately
lightener on and
turns.
it starts
Yeah,
smoking, and you're like, "Ah, you
yes.
liar."
Yeah. And so it's really important to tell the truth. So you have to, again, I think for us, we have to learn how to get that information out of them. I have learned that they think if they take a box that they bought at Walmart and put it on their hair, they don't consider that color.
Oh,
So, we now have a list of what we go through. Have you ever mixed two things together and put it on your hair? Have you ever put anything that you think is just a shampoo in?
yes.
We need to know anything on that. It's important to tell the truth. Same thing if, or have you been on medication, because it
Oh,
changes
yeah.
your hair.
No,
Um,
absolutely.
and I would say the other thing is that you have to have a realistic hair goal. You 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 can't have dark black Asian hair and think you're going to get blonde hair. Um,
Yeah.
so I think I wish that they knew that. And again, I think that part of that responsibility comes back to us. We try to write about it in our Instagram account. We try to write about it on our web page.
Yep.
So that they're educated on what that is.
Yes.
They have to be prepared to spend the time, the money, and the maintenance of
Yeah,
what they're asking for.
and I think that's totally something that's lost is the once they get this not only the blonde cut, like if they go blonde, it's like now, you have to take care of that now because we've had people who have left with beautiful hair, but then a week later they're like, it's it's poofing up, it's frizzy. I'm like, well, you live in Arizona, you got to hydrate that thing, like you got to take care of it.
Do you have a handout you give them when they have their hair colored, something they leave with?
We do not have a handout. We do give them, we kind of go through the product recommendations and kind of talk about that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not a specific handout. We used to do the Bumble and Bumble
Prescription pad?
prescription pads.
Mm-hmm.
That just didn't go. It didn't work. Like we worked on it. We probably did it for like 7-8 months. Like we were really trying
Mm-hmm.
to push it, and it wasn't. We didn't see a big turnaround. We've seen one lately with our opening with the consultation, talking about the products we're going to use based on what they're going to say, and then we kind of they use the products, and then at the end of it they talk about it again, saying like, hey, this is what it's going to take to kind of care for this hair. So
We
yeah.
created a what we call an aftercare color pamphlet. It's
Oh,
just kind
nice.
of a fold out over sheet, and so everybody that gets color leaves with that, and it walks them through all the changes, what can happen, what they need to do. That's been extremely helpful in changing any what you were saying, coming back, or the questions, because they know before they leave.
Yeah. No, that's actually a wonderful idea. You guys are awesome. We're gonna
I'd
take
be
a look at
happy to
that.
I'll be happy to share one with you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so while we're talking about hair care, let's talk about it in Florida because, in Arizona, it's dry all the time. So there's definitely some adjustments to an extremely humid area, which I'm assuming it's humid all the time in Jacksonville.
I love dry. I wish it was dry.
Yes.
Coming from San Diego, when I moved here, I didn't even know how to do my own hair. I mean, I was like, what the heck happened? It was a nightmare because it's always humid here and it's always wet. So you really have challenges. I have curly hair, and it can get frizzy and it can get big. So, if you have that hair, you're big. If you have finer hair, the humidity collapses it and makes it fall. So I had to
Mm.
relearn how to do hair. You cannot live in Florida and not use products. Products are your savior. So
Yes.
I think that's it. And again, the key comes with giving them a prescription, letting them know what is going to work exactly for them. I don't know about you, probably feel like I do, but the Hairdresser's Invisible Oil Primer is a lifesaver. You
Oh, no,
cannot
absolutely.
live, yeah, yeah, you can't live without it.
No, it's in our top. It's in our top five uh, of products that we sell,
Yeah.
especially from Bumble. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either two or three. Thickening hairspray is really popular around here. We have a lot of thin hair clients that come in, so thickening hairspray is, I believe, our number one. But
Now, I use thickening to control the frizz as well because it helps to lock the set in.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Key for everybody listening. If you
Yeah.
got thickening hairspray, there you go. A little bit of defrizz. I
hmm
know. I know a lot of people here were a little bit upset that defrizz is not here anymore because that was a lot of curly hair's uh,
Yeah.
favorite piece.
My daughter is a hairdresser in the salon, and she cried when they took that away. She's like, Mom, you've got to find me some.
Yeah.
I mean, I was buying it from everywhere for her.
So what's a constant struggle? I mean, we talked about the humidity a little bit, but what in the salon? You guys do have a lot of blonde, obviously, with
We do.
balayage. What is a common struggle that clients have when they come in and they get their hair done and they go home, and with the humidity and with the sun and the beach, like what is something that they struggle with?
I would say probably two things they struggle with here. One is that in Jacksonville, we have horrible water.
Oh.
Yes. I mean, if you were to look at our faucets, the shower heads,
Ugh.
they have this terrible buildup. Like you literally have to clean them weekly with vinegar or lime away. So
Really?
that's building up in your hair. So we're very careful to talk about using clarifying treatments
Yes.
on the hair before we do it. And even though you don't want to clarify colored hair regularly, when it begins to get that kind of the tone fades and it gets warm, you definitely need to do that. And then the sun, it's always hot here. I love people are talking about coming into fall and the weather cooling off and it's 100 degrees. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's you burn up just walking to the car.
Yep.
So you have to have product in your hair. Again, the HIO primer is your lifesaver because it gives you the heat protection, the UV protection.
Yes.
So yes, I would say those are the things.
Oh, that's that's good. I hope everybody's writing these things down. Um, so what I talked about how hairdressers invisible primer, which I'm assuming it's one of your top five. What are a few really good cocktails that you kind of put together for people? Like, what's a popular cocktail that you put together for your clients?
Are you talking about a styling
Yeah,
product or just an overall?
like a styling product cocktail. Like if there's like a
Hmm.
set of like two or three that
Hmm.
you're like, oh, these are really popular because they go start to finish with coming out of the
Hmm.
either coming out of the shower, styling the hair, and walking out with fairly healthy hair. What's a good cocktail that your
Hmm.
salon usually
Yeah.
provides?
Well, we actually would. I would give you two. One for people who don't really want to blow dry. So you have the don't blow it. So depending on the texture of their hair, we're going to use the HIO primer, the hairdresser's invisible oil primer. That's going to go on towel dried hair, and then you're going to work some of the don't blow it through the hair. I like to get that all combed through, get your hair twisted right where you want it to be, and then I put another little drop of the hairdresser's invisible oil, the plain oil,
Yeah.
over the top of that. We need that to control the frizz. And that works wonderfully. If I were going to blow dry my hair, which is a little curly and a little fuzzy, and
Hmm.
I wanted it to last and to stay, I would start with the hairdresser's invisible oil primer. You would think Bumble paid me to do that. Um, and then I would put the thickening spray. I use thickening spray on probably 75% of my clients before I blow dry. And then I actually put a little bit of surf foam spray in it as well,
Okay.
because even though it's curly, it needs a little texture to fight against that humidity.
Yes.
Um, and then when it's almost dry, I do the don't blow the blow dry repair, and that
Okay.
works amazing because that seals the humidity out.
Yeah.
And then, like, if
Awesome.
it's a really humid day, I finish it off with the dry oil, the hairdresser's invisible dry oil
Oh, that's
spray.
a good one.
That's a wonderful product.
That one's
Hmm.
been jumping up. We didn't jump on that one as fast, but it's ever since like we did like a training on it, and then everybody's been all about it. Like it's flown up the ranks.
What's nice about that one is that if you don't have a lot of hair, it doesn't collapse your style. You can spray that on, whereas the
Yes.
oil could collapse your style, and that one doesn't. It just gives you the shine, the protection, and the control against the humidity.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Um, in a past episode of a podcast, we talked about how clients bring in pictures, which is great, but and you talked about it a little bit with your consultation. Um, setting the right expectation. So when clients come in with pictures, how are you approaching when somebody comes in with a picture and it might not be the best for them to have that specific, like that exact picture of the blogger or the style or the superstar that they're looking at? How do you guys go about that, and how do you make that change, or do you just kind of go, well, it's what they want, and go for it?
We never just say it's what they want and go for it. I think part of that starts for us, what has saved me, and I've only done it for about the last year and a half, is that we try to take care of a lot of that at the initial appointment. I have an amazing front desk manager, Miranda, and when she books an appointment, she has gotten so great at gathering information.
Yeah.
What does your hair look like? What are you going to? We actually even ask them to email or text us a picture of their current hair and a
Yes.
picture of their goal hair when they're a new client. Sometimes then the stylist can call them even before that appointment, and kind of start to set that expectation. So
Awesome.
I would say that eliminated over half of our problem with that by doing that.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah, that works.
what would you do? So I'm interested in this because we have a similar way of doing it, but it's only
Hmm.
really if people are coming out of town. Most people will come in and we'll kind of chat with them, and our stylists are really good at kind of being able to talk around that, be like, look, because of her skin tone or this picture is filtered. They're really good about
Hmm.
explaining that.
Right.
How does that stylist get on the phone and say, hey? What does she end up saying to the person over the phone? Because, I mean, getting your hands in the hair can be a little bit different. So I'm interested on how
Hmm.
that stylist goes and says, hey, take a look at your pictures. Here's what you're looking at. And do you see a lot of people, maybe backing off or being like, oh, okay, that's cool. I still want to make the appointment. So what do you see from that as well?
I, Most of the time, they're actually really excited when we ask to see their hair first. I mean, I've found them to be very receptive when we say, "Please send us a picture." Um, And so there are many times when we get the picture and the stylist does have to call them and ask them questions. And I would say that she can tell them, you're not going to, just from what you've told me, I don't think we're going to be able to achieve that look in one session. This is going to require a consultation before we actually book the appointment. So sometimes we actually just book the consultation when there's going to be a dramatic change.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. That's good. I'm glad. And I'm glad that it's well received.
Yeah, it really, honestly, they're really happy to send you a picture of themselves.
That's true. No, and usually like when we get like a Facebook message or an email or a call where they're like, I need a correction, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, so let's take a look at the picture before we do anything, or can you just come in for the consultation in the next few minutes?
Mhm.
Kind of, can you come in today, and what's your timeline, kind of thing? Because a lot of people, and what we struggle with is a lot of people are calling a lot of salons and are like, hey, fix my hair, and then we're like, well, this now has turned into a 7-hour project or multiple sessions. Are you ready for that? And they're like, no. And then they go someplace else or whatever. But
Mhm.
so it's a hard line to walk. And clients, I just hope you guys understand that. Like, and the way Linda has talked about it for me, like it affirms how important it is to care about the clients and to manage those expectations. I think that's amazing. I want to transition a little bit to um, just a couple things of advice coming from you. What is advice that you think is most important for new stylists coming out that you either tell your new stylists coming from school to the salon or other stylists that are coming out of school?
I would say new stylists, just coming out of school. We have an Aveda school a few miles from us, so I talk to them frequently. And then obviously I have assistants that have started with me, it's straight out of school. And I would say that I like to remind them that their education is really just beginning. I don't think anybody gets out of school and is really ready to do hair. You have,
True.
at least
No, it's
not
totally true.
color. You have to have that experience. And being an assistant, just washing the hair off, watching the transition, what they're doing from one color to another is so beneficial.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that experience. And that you do have to work hard. Somehow they have this fantasy that there are people on Instagram that work 8 hours a week and make $100,000 a year.
Yeah. No.
And it's not like that. You have to work hard. You're going to have to put time and money, and you're going to have to be dependable.
Right.
That's not the kind of job that you cannot do if you're not going to be dependable.
Yeah, no, and I just to piggyback off of that, if I could, think about and the thing that we tell stylists is if you're not dependable or showing up or putting in that time for your clients, like think about you as a consumer. If wherever you're going to purchase services or goods or whatever, if they're inconsistent, what are you going to do? Look for somebody else that's more
Right.
consistent, or that's providing you what you need. So you got to put yourself in like in a consumer mindset, even though you're the professional and kind of in charge of the schedule and how you're going about your business. So
Right. So haven't you ever walked into a place or done business somewhere and you received the most exceptional service? And I always want to know. I'd had this happen to me the other day with a phone call. I had to call Bank of America and I was like, oh my gosh, who taught you how to talk like this? You're so good on the phone. I'm like, do you have a script? What did you learn? She made me feel so important. I mean, and that really, I always tell a new stylist, do you love people? I think that's been the key to my success. I
totally,
love people. I love
totally.
to know their story. I love to help them. I love to go along their journey with them. So I would ask a new stylist, do you love people? Because if you don't, you're in the wrong business.
That's totally true. Totally
Yeah.
true.
I mean, you'd be surprised at how many don't. And then I would say probably the last thing that I think is that they should think about what part of hairdressing they love. And I think they should specialize. Not that they don't have to know how to do everything, but I don't like to do perms. And I mean, I completely stopped. I think one
You just
person,
said 90% of my stylists here at the salon. I
yeah.
have two that
Well,
do perms.
I actually don't think over a long period of time you can exceed at something you don't really enjoy doing.
It's true.
So I think you should think about what it is you love and that you should specialize in that. That's where you should put your time and energy.
Yep.
Um, the other thing I work with a lot of my young stylists with that it seems to be a forgotten thing is body mechanics. They don't pump their chair
Interesting.
up. They don't pump their chair down. They're doing highlighting and their body is twisted.
Oh, yeah.
You can ask them as they work next to me because you know what I mean. I'm like, don't stand like that, or when you're my age, you're not going to be able to do hair. Um, I think it's important for us to teach them that because they don't seem to be learning that in school.
I think awesome observation that I haven't really thought about or listened to. That's awesome.
Hmm. Hmm. And then I would say for existing stylists or stylists who have been in the business for a long time, if they're not happy with how their career has gone, I think that I mean I've had times where I'm not happy with where my salon has gone. We have to sit down and take inventory,
Yep.
and you have
And
to
that's
set
not easy.
goals. It's not easy, but you have
Yeah.
to actually take them. You have to say, I'm not where I want to be. Where do I want to go? And you have to be willing to change. I mean, you have
Totally.
to.
You got to be
And
totally honest with yourself.
you got to remember the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah, so I would tell them, I learned from the younger stylists all the time things that I didn't know. So I think that you have to be open. Education. I mean, if they would just go and spend some time and money on their education, they would be motivated. They would be excited.
Yep.
I mean, I go take these classes and I'm just dying. I'm on the plane thinking, I wish I could do your hair right now.
Yep. Yep. Nope. And that is how our owner is. Like every time she goes to a class, she's like coming back, and she comes back and she calls up a few people, and she's like, "Hey, I've got to do this. I've got to do this new thing. Can I do it on your hair?" And
Right.
then they come in, so then she can do it, and then she can teach. But yeah, you've got to, and just like I mean, and we tell people all the time, especially our stylists, we're like, look, especially the ones that have been, a hairstylist for a long time. It's like if you don't keep going, like if you don't keep educating, if you just sit back and be like, I'm good, like that's your
I'm
wall.
good
Like
enough. I'm good
you
enough.
you're yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Then you are
Yeah.
that's it. And so and with an evolving like hair, it does not stay the same. It is I'm sure
No.
you've seen the hair change a lot. And
And that the chemistry of hair color
yep. Oh my
changes
gosh.
so fast. I
Yes.
mean, new techniques constantly.
Yep.
You have to change and learn. I
Yep.
agree. Hmm.
No. Well, Linda, this has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I hope it was actually a positive experience for you.
It was very nice.
All right, so you can check. I just want to plug their website is actually plug your website real quick. I brought it up and I can't find it.
It's westcoasthairdesign.com.
And then your Instagram, is that like your only social media? Is that or the main social media that you guys use?
It is Instagram and Facebook. I actually Instagram is more of the longer hair, the balayage, the teasy lights, the foliage, and Facebook is going to be more of the gray coverage, short haircuts, bobs, that type of thing.
Interesting. Okay, so that's at West Coast Hair Design on Instagram, and I'm sure if you just search for West Coast Hair Design, it's in Jacksonville, Florida. Uh, this was just awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you.